Welcome back to the class, everyone. The day has finally arrived, or at least it will in 2 days. Ben Solo, the conquest character that has been being farmed for the last 3 months, is finally going to be unlocked, and we're finally going to be able to use him. We did a similar video about this a few months ago about Darth Malgus when he first came out, and we're going to be doing it here as well, and that is going to be a crash course on Ben Solo. We're going to look at everything that we can speculate about his kit that we need to know beforehand, like what relic level do we want to immediately take him to, what are the Omicrons he should have, what mod shit should he be using, as well as what comps are he going to work in. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it. And the first thing I think we need to address are the Omicrons he wants, needs, that you should be putting on him, how they're effective, when they should go on, etc. I think it's probably the question that I've been asked the most. And honestly, with Ben Solo, I don't think his Omicrons are as important as a lot of other characters. We're probably still going to end up putting some on him eventually, but there's a few things we need to keep our eyes out for about where the new raid team, likely the new raid team, we'll get to comps later, is going to fit in the overall meta. That being said, the biggest one that I think is going to be the most important and most relevant is going to be his unique. This is going to be incredibly annoying for pretty much anyone that isn't named Lord Vader. So we'll getting right into it. If the enemy in the leader slot begins their turn with Ben Solo defeated and Ben Solo still has an active ally, he revives with 51% health, and all allies gain instant defeat immunity for the rest of the encounter, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. So there's really two big things happening here, and one of them relates to almost everyone, and the other one relates more specifically to actually Jabba. So the first thing, he will be able to revive anytime the enemy leader moves and like they get their turn, and the other team hasn't been fully defeated. The reason why this is kind of annoying is because you can't just kill him and then just go on about your day, and then he comes back, you kill him again. He has this really annoying interaction while Ben Solo is active. So once he comes back to life, Rey can't be defeated, and Ben Solo can't be defeated while Rey is above 50% health. So your enemy is having to do this huge juggle thing where they have to push Rey below 50% health. They then have to kill Ben Solo. Now they have to go and kill Rey before your leader takes a turn, because the second they do, he's back. You can't kill Rey. You have to go back to killing Ben. But when you're in the process of doing that, if Rey goes above 50% health, you're screwed. And this whole process just repeats. And in the middle of this, he's doing a ton of damage. Rey is gaining her ult. If you're gaining turn meter, they're gaining mastery. And it's just going to be a huge mess. The obvious solution to this right now is going to be Lord Vader. When he gets his ultimate, people can't be revived, and then Ben will just eventually melt at some point in there once Rey gets slow enough on her health, and he can even have healing immunity to make sure she stays down there, and then Ben will just die forever. So there is going to be a counter. This isn't going to make it undefeatable, but it's going to be so annoying for teams like Jedi Master Luke and JMK specifically. The other thing that is going to be in here, and this is going to be mostly relevant for Jabba, is he revives with 51% health, which we already did that, and all allies gain instant defeat immunity for the rest of the encounter. So instant defeat immunity later in the battle isn't really that relevant when he's reviving, because C typically doesn't kill anyone with anything but the instant defeat. So if Ben Solo is revived, he was probably killed with it, and he's probably going to be dead because he can't revive from it, and the instant defeat immunity isn't already on there. It's a little complicated, but basically not really relevant for C. Not really relevant for JMK, because JMK only has a one-time instant defeat, and that's gone in the beginning, and the rest of Force Dyad really already takes care of that. But yeah, that part is most specifically for Jabba, who has a pretty consistent instant defeat back and forth, and even has other ways of killing characters with thermals and whatnot from his allies. So that's where that's mostly going to come into play. But the reviving at 51% health is going to be so stinking annoying. He's going to be good. Ben Solo is going to be good without the Omicron, because really half of this ability that we already mentioned, Rey can't be defeated, Ben Solo can't be defeated while Rey is above 50% health, that's already active. That's already going to throw a huge wrench into things like Star Killer and even JML or even JMK. The reason why I will not be applying this Omicron the second he drops is just because I want to see if she can do it to Rey and Ben can actually do all the things I just mentioned without having to deal with that really annoying thing. I'll probably end up putting it on just because I have enough Omicrons left over, but I'm not sold that this is important as the Malgus lead or the Star Killer unique. It looks very good. It's definitely priority number 1, but I'm not going to do it the second he drops. Maybe a week later. We'll see how testing goes in Arena for him, I guess. Well, or in GAC because it's the GAC Omicron. But next up for his, what is going to be the second priority for his Omicron that I think is going to be pretty good universally if you have Omicrons to spare, then it's a really great option. But yeah, when this ability is used, Ben Solo's cooldowns are reduced by 1. If Galactic Legendary is in the allied slot, this attack instead deals true damage and inflicts healing immunity for 4 turns. So this is broken. 4-turn healing immunity that can't be copied, dispelled, evaded, or resisted on a 4 cooldown. Pretty much whatever target he wants to not heal is just never going to heal. And the thing that I really like about this one is it's very universal in the counters. Whether it be Lord Vader, JMK, JML, Star Killer, C. That's valid against all of them. We talked about the instant defeat, how it's super relevant in some fights, but in other fights it's not so much. This one has more of a catch-all. Again, I don't think I'm going to put it on unless it's going to be a part of a very specific strategy where you have to like get GK with healing immunity, GK with healing immunity, trigger the sacrifice, and then you go after it. If there's something there, then I'll apply it. But I don't think I'll be applying that one. And then the other one that he has that has an Omicron on it is going to be actually is unique, where it pretty much just is a blanket text for he ignores protection. And this one has potential to be good as well. However, for this to be good, Ben Solo needs to have the damage to be one-shotting characters below protection, or at least two-shotting or something of that nature. And the reason why is because when your whole team, and we saw this with JML winning at his Datacron, when your whole team ignores protection, things go really smoothly. You just undercut the protection, kill the character, move on with your day. When only one character can do it, it's really not that valuable because your one character is going and hitting them, and then Rey goes, or whoever, the Resistance brothers, they go and deal damage to the protection. Ben goes again, deals damage under the protection. The other characters deal over the protection. And typically what will end up happening is the character will die when the protection was about out anyways, which makes the whole ignoring protection thing kind of pointless. But again, Ben right now, according to .gg that has all the stats pulled, has some of the highest damage numbers in the entire game. So this big clause of me saying, if he can two-shot a character actually might be the case. We need to see it in action. There's a lot more math that's going to get taken into it, the Galactic Legend he's fighting against. I would rather see it first, see his damage output, and then pull the trigger than just do it right off the bat. But I think this is kind of a weird character when it comes to Omicrons, different from Starkiller and Malgus, who I think have like one that really shines and 2 other that are niche. He really has 3 that are overall just like a solid 6 or 7 that are really great, but not, he doesn't need them to work. He will do a lot of work for the Rey team without any Omicrons, which is honestly a pretty nice sign for TW as well. That being said, those are the Omicrons, again, reviewing. Force Dyad for me is priority number 1, Obscured is number 2, and then Redeemed is going to be number 3. Next up, let's talk about Relic levels. For him, I'm really going to be shooting for Relic 7. Number 1, he's an attacker. Attackers typically, for me, are the highest priority for Relic levels. They are the ones that need damage the most. The battle lives or dies on whether they kill the exact character that they need to kill at the time that they need to kill them. There's something else really kind of hidden, and we'll talk about this more when we get to comps, but since he is not resistance, he's just unaligned force user, we want him to get inspired because Resistance Hero Poe, actually a lot of his bonuses when you look at it, aren't listed for resistance, but for light side allies. And we can get in here, we can actually see this specifically. Yeah, I think it's here at the end. If he is inspired when he uses a special ability, just so he can inspire. Okay, so that's for resistance allies getting inspired. But he has specific clauses in here that actually make a difference when the whole team is light side. Enemies lose 5% protection. Inspired allies, so this is important. When inspired allies, not resistance, but just inspired, deal damage to an enemy with an ability, they also deal damage equal to 10% of the target's max health, which can't be evaded critically. Hits an inspired ally. Again, not resistance. All buffs are dispelled from that enemy at the end of the turn. So Resistance Hero Poe has ways of using an inspired on characters that aren't resistance. However, if you look at his kit like we saw previously, he can't give it to non-resistance allies. So the only way, to my knowledge, that you can give Inspired to your Ben Solo is through Rey's Unique, which is going to give it to the healthiest light side ally who isn't currently inspired. So what we're trying to do by bringing him to Relic 7, yes, we're trying to make him hit harder so that we can have his fullest potential. But on the other hand, we're also trying to get his hit points and his protection as high as possible so that Inspired isn't just going around to the rest of the team, especially let's say if they're using Jedi Master Luke and they stun everyone, and Rey is the only really source of Inspired. You don't want to have to wait for it to go to Risen Zero Finn, and then down to Risen Zero Poe, and then down to Holdo or whoever it is, the 5th in your team, and then around to Ben Solo. You want him to get it as quickly as possible. So again, Relic 7 on him is important for really those two reasons. I mean, Relic 5 is probably a good starting point. If you can get his modding to the point where he's over the rest of your characters, then that's probably good enough. But for me, again, I'll probably be taking him all the way up to Relic 7 to start. Next up, we do need to cover mods, and this is going to be interesting. I'm not sure how many people are going to be able to replicate this. Maybe I should be talking about team comps first, because we've been talking a lot about Rey, and we will get to other things here in a second. But what I'm going to do personally is I'm going to take my exact mod set off of Rey and put it on Ben Solo, and then I'm going to remod Rey for health. And the reason why is because Ben Solo is going to highly take advantage of just pure offense. If we look over his kit, and we'll do that a little bit more again when we look at comps, but the dude wants raw offense. Number one, he is a special attacker. In other words, he's going to have super low critical chance, and the odds of him actually critting your opponent consistently are very low. Also, he's mostly going to be fighting Galactic Legend teams where a lot of them have weird types of crit immunity, or even Starkiller, who's a common counter for Rey, has a lot of crit immunity on his team. Lord Vader just becomes immune to it. I believe the JMK team has 2 different types of it. JML has a type of crit immunity. It's crit immunity is everywhere, so really shouldn't be banking on critting. Even I would even argue for the triangle. Like, maybe if you have a good triangle with like 8% offense or 7% offense, sure, have at it, same difference. But for the most part, he really just going to want raw offense in his set, as well as all 3 of his primaries. So I'm just going to take Rey set and I'm going to throw it over on him. He also is going to want health, just because that's kind of the way that the Rey team is built. If you look at her lead, it gives a bonus to 30% of max health. You might as well take advantage of that on Ben as well. And health is really just kind of the way you want to go in general. Again, to make him beefier, to make him the healthiest unit, which that actually does include protection on the team, so that he can be able to he can end up passing the other 2 characters. But it's a pretty simple mod set. He doesn't need a crazy amount of speed. I would probably, it looks like I'm aiming for somewhere between plus 15s and plus 20s here. I have a few, I think I have 2 plus 25s, but I also have a 12 and like a few border 15s. So he won't need a stupid amount of speed, but I'm guessing I'm going to be going for plus 110, a plus 115, because he's also going to get a decent amount from his unique, given that you put him on a Rey team. So mods, pretty simple overall. Next up, we're going to be checking out comps, and I've mentioned this a lot. And before we do check out comps, we do need to make mention of one thing. So what I've done here on this sheet is I've labeled out every little text in Ben's kit, and there were a ton that have a condition or a limitation on whether Ben is with Rey, Galactic Legend Rey, or light side allies, because understanding this is going to let us understand which comps he is and isn't going to work in. So first off, his special obscured, it is going to apply blind if any Rey is there. That's kind of whatever. Really important. True damage and healing immunity only work if this is Galactic Legend Rey. That's a big deal. 4-turn healing immunity that can't be dispelled or resisted. Immediately he drops down a tier by not being with Galactic Legend Rey. Family Legacy, if he's with all light side allies, he gets bonus true damage for this. I believe it hits everyone, and he also has a dispel. Pretty good. Let's move on. Next up, Redeemed. This is his unique. If he has any Rey and all light side allies, he gets a pretty sizable health and speed bonus. I guess we can actually probably look into that to see what the exact one is, and it is based off of how many allies he has at the beginning of the battle. So he gets, 15% max health. Also, this is why you want to mod him for health. and as well as 10 speed for each light side ally. So he's going to be having 50 speed at the very beginning, and I believe 75% max health. It's going to make him, it's going to be pretty nice for him overall. But getting back to this, Force Diad, this is his last one. He needs to have any ray and light side and the instant defeat immunity to start. And this is what's going to keep him from beating JMK. So, or this is what's going to keep him from being beat by JMK, at least easily, is because when Cat goes immediately, they just come right back and everything's fine. So basically, I know this is a lot to kind of take in. We're going to summarize. If you're not using Ben Solo on a Rey or JTR team, the dude is essentially, imagine Fennec without the Bounty Hunter or Scoundrel tag. That's all he is. He is a high damage dealer with an armor shred. He also has a move that can get rid of 100% turn meter, kind of like Jin. So, not that good. He's not plug and play. I don't think you're going to find a ton of teams to put him on. In fact, I think we can narrow it down to 3. And even amongst those 3, he's only really going to shine in one, which this is where we get to the depressing part of the video, where I tell you that if you don't have Galactic Legend Rey, really analyze gearing and investing in this character, period, and pay attention to those clauses we just looked up, because some of these are Omicrons. Like the healing immunity from Obscured, that's an Omicron. So if you don't have Rey, do not put that on, at least right now. But getting back to our comps here, so the ideal comp is going to be Rey. I believe it's going to be Bros and Haldo just because of the way that team functions. I would like to have a tank there. The Inspired is a nasty mechanic to mix in with Ben on the team. I don't think this is the end-all team per se. If you don't have the healing immunity Omicron, there's probably a good reason to put JTR here as well, just to kind of even things out. Your consolation prize, if you don't have Galactic Legend Rey, and I know a lot of people don't, JTR, Finn, Resistance Zero, Poe, as well as BB-8. It's probably going to be a solid team. There is a little bit of a risk here just because, or not risk, but a little bit of a downside. JTR's leadership, it does a lot of stuff for resistance and turn meter manipulation, and I'm afraid that Ben Solo is going to more or less become a statue. That being said, his unique here, if all allies were light side at the start of the battle, and there is any version of Rey in the leader slot, all allies gain instant defeat immunity. And this whole Rey thing at the end, where like the 50% and the 100%, or the 50%, that he has to be below, or that she has to be below for him to die, and for her to die, he has to be dead. That still applies. So that really is the biggest reason to put him on here. And honestly, it might be better, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be better to actually drop the bro so that JTR never taunts, and maybe even put R2 in here to make someone else tanky like Haldo, so you can kind of abuse the whole relationship with Ben Solo and JTR. But this is the second best place to use it. If you have JTR, I would probably still gear Ben. Like, it's still a pretty good idea. And the third option we have here, and we're going to call this the last resort, is going to be with Star Killer. I don't like it. Visas is the superior character. If you have Visas geared, Relic 5 or whatever, don't make this swap. Ben Solo is all he really is doing for the Star Killer team is fulfilling the requirements so Star Killer gets all of his bonuses, and he's giving you an armor shred. There's really not a lot else that he's bringing to the table. If you're currently running like Scav Rey, or you're currently running no one, you're about to unlock Star Killer, sure, he'll do okay. But he's not the ideal fifth for here. He'll work pretty well here, and he will be absolutely drop dead amazing in this last category. So that is pretty much going to cover it today. We're not going to cover Datacrons quite yet, and I didn't do this with Malgus as well, specifically because I will be very surprised if there is nothing relating to Ben Solo in the next set of Datacrons next month. And we will probably do a follow-up video on this, similar to what we did with Malgus as well, to talk about what we got right, what we got wrong, maybe some other things that need to change. One thing I did mention that it should be taken note of probably is when you're modding Ben Solo for offense, remod Rey entirely for health, just so you can abuse the Ben Solo, where is it here? Oh, I'm on the wrong tab. Where you can abuse his last unique, and honestly, health Rey was never really that bad to begin with. But that is going to be it for today. Let me know what you guys think, how many Omicrons you intend to apply, and until next time, stay awesome.